How do you see the Marshall Islands building a bridge between the different ideological viewpoints at the UN climate talks?
We have always strived to be a good representative of the small island vulnerable states, and I think that we have enjoyed relatively good rapport with the development partners, the big island, the big states, the big emitters. We try and bring to the table what we consider to be the immediate and longer-term concerns of the small island states, and to point out that our ambitions and our goals are not that much different from those of the developed countries. That the idea of climate change leadership and working towards sensible climate change policies does not necessarily cancel out development and the development interests of those countries that need to enhance their development prospects. We think that opportunities that are presented in mitigation and adaptation efforts are really complementary to economic development, but all in a new sense of direction. Carbon-free should be the ultimate goal of everyone, and if we concentrated on developing in that pathway, it's a win-win for all concerned. But it is important that the big countries realize that we don't see our efforts to be taking away from their own robust efforts to develop.
And do you think that countries' views on this and their kind of progression towards a common viewpoint has developed well through the efforts of the Marshall Islands?
Yes, we are now going to attend our second MEF meeting as a small island developing state, a small island vulnerable state. And we view that as America and the other big countries' recognition of our ability to contribute to that debate and to come up with solutions that can be accepted and promoted by the big states as well. We also have been able to dialogue directly with the United States and also with Chinese officials throughout the Pacific, and have been able to share with them what our concerns are, and it seems to us that is in fact taking hold. We are delighted at some of the developments that are occurring directly bilaterally between the United States and China, and want to encourage that, because what's good for the two is of course wonderful for the rest of us.
And have you seen tangible improvements through the efforts coordinated by the Marshall Islands and the Pacific Islands, like the Majuro Declaration and the Cartagena Dialogue?
The Majuro Declaration, which was the outcome of our climate change meeting in the margins of the forum in September, has presented a new platform that is gaining wide reception amongst members of the UNFCCC as a innovative way of keeping a dynamic platform open for countries to up their commitments, to continue to change as they become more able to do something more practical and more contribute that can better contribute to climate change efforts. The Majuro Declaration is not only open for nations but also for national organizations like the state of Hawaii, for example. We're working on California. Hopefully we can get them on as well. We're also open to NGOs, to private sector, to also add on their ambitions to the national groups. We think that that is and many nations are encouraging us to use that as a platform for small island states to also present what they're doing to the world. But the other thing, the Cartagena group, we were very delighted and honored to be able to host it in the Marshalls. We were able to, I think, provide an atmosphere for nations used to meet under pressure most of the time to sort of relax and say, okay, let's talk to each other and with each other about what we can really do and not be under any specific pressure to do one thing or another. And I think that was a very successful meeting. We have some outcomes that are being worked on, put in writing and in a form that we can share with the rest of the nations when next we meet. We look forward to using these opportunities to enhance the chance of success, not only for the Secretary General's upcoming meeting, but also for the Lima stopover and also continuing on to Paris. Lima should be, as we've said, a dress rehearsal for Paris, and not just another cop on the way to Paris, because we tend to leave things to the last 12 hours of these meetings, and sometimes they don't get done very well. Doing them under pressure result in dropping important aspects or not being able to agree on critical components of these agreements. So we hope that Lima will give us an opportunity to get set, ready to go for Paris, so that Paris can come up without any more hassles.
When you've hosted events on the Marshall Islands, I know with foreign diplomats and leaders coming in, I know you've always made an effort to show them how vulnerable the islands are. What kind of a response do you get from leaders when they actually see it for themselves?
There's nothing like seeing. I mean, landing on the airstrip in Majuro, on our capital city of Majuro, and seeing sandbags on either side of the runway is a message that's rather too powerful to forget. We've seen people who came to Majuro for the forum, as well as people who visited during the Cartagena Dialogue, who are just awed at what they saw. I think they were impressed with being able to be witnesses to disappearing islands, to our water systems being inundated with salt, the fact that there was a drought and a flooding situation at the same time, just within 100 or 200 miles of each other. It's ridiculous, the kind of climate displays that are occurring in the small island states. But it was a powerful message that we wanted to share with the world, and I think it worked, because in our recent meetings, this trip, for example, in Brussels, we were very pleased with what I think is a marked sign of a raised level of understanding amongst the developed states vis-à-vis our situation. The meetings that we've had here in London with Sir Hugo Swire and Sir David King are also indicative of a much higher and much more responsive attitude of the bigger countries, bigger partners to our situation. I think the UK is going to be a critical partner in this. It has always been, but even more so now. But in an enhanced chance of success because of the higher level of understanding they have. We will continue to do that as a small island state. Our job as bridge between the developed states and the small island vulnerable states is difficult, but it's something that someone must do.
The conversations you've had, do they give you hope that there might still be room to negotiate a 1.5 degree deal?
Yes, I think we have all tried to make sure that we're within that 1.5 to 2 degree range. that anything above that would be so disruptive to life as we know it, that it makes sense for developed and vulnerable states both to work to keep warming in that range, and also that the nations altogether agree that we should, if we lock ourselves into a longer-term commitments, we should do so with a view that at some point there needs to be an opportunity to ratchet up ambition, to be able to stand back and look at what has been done, what the science is telling us is happening and must be done in order to prevent more damage to the Earth atmosphere. Then we should be able to do those within the context of the longer ambition periods, rather than just say, okay, we have an agreement till 2023, let's sit back and wait, because as we know, those that have been watching this since Rio 1992, you don't wait until the last minute. And I think another piece of the science that's coming out of the IPCC report is very important, and we've been flagging it, and I think both the developed and the vulnerable states understand it. If we make those changes that we need to make now, they can be more effective and more economically undertaken than if we wait just a few years. Just a few years can make those prices astronomical, and the job terribly difficult to accomplish.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.